Hello and welcome to the Real Estate Regroup Show. I am your host, LJ Walker, a real estate investor helping you realize your dream of owning a home or investing in one. Well, today I'd like to address the question that I saw in one of my favorite Facebook groups. The question was, what would you do with 40 acres and a mule? Before I begin, let me give a definition, or let me just give you a historical reference as to the importance of that question. You see, after the Civil War, the enslaved that were free, were promised 40 acres and a mule. This would be land that would stretch from South Carolina to Florida. Unfortunately, it was repealed by the next president that came into office. His name was Andrew Johnson. He gave the land to those who actually waged war against the United States in the first place. I know, tragic. But here's the thing. I went through many of the responses. They were quite entertaining on that particular post. And unfortunately, there was one negative Nancy that said that it was a ridiculous question and that it should not be in that particular forum. I want to say this. I disagree with this particular person. I think it's very important to dream because your dreams can become reality. If you manifest it, focus on it, study, etc., it can happen. And even if you don't, you never know. Let me just give you a personal story, a personal background for myself. My mother was not raised by her birth parents. So the first person that actually died when it came to all of my grandparents was my mother's birth father. He left 167 acres of land to the whole family, right? But mainly to the brothers, my mother and her brothers and sisters. Being that we live here in the United States and the property was in Jamaica, we decided that, you know what, it's best to just let the other relatives who are living out there take care of it. Then later on, as years passed, the rest died. Also, I noticed that my co-workers, particularly those who are older than me, their relatives have died and have left them property, a lot of property. So even if the government of the United States decided, you know what, we're not ever going to give you 40 acres and a mule, you might inherit it from a relative. Therefore, you should think about what you would do in case one day that happens to you, because it might. Okay. I know another guy, I mentioned this before in a past podcast. He bought a note on a property. The people had not been paying the mortgage for many years, and the bank did not do a good job as far as record keeping is concerned. I believe they sent letters and nobody responded. Well, he sent out a door knocker, and it turns out the people were actually dead in the house. So he had to go to probate court. They had to go look to find who the descendants were, who would have inherited, again, this property. So this is something that is common. It's not uncommon and it's not unheard of. It can happen. In addition to all of what I'm saying, North Carolina, there's a city there that is giving reparations to its citizen. I believe they're giving them money, not necessarily land, but they can use that money to purchase 40 acres and a mule, or 40 acres and a Buick, if anything. Another state, Virginia, some of the universities there, they were built by people who were enslaved. Now, some of those enslaved people are dead now, but their descendants are still alive. The university, I believe is Polytech was one, but it's more than one university that's doing this. They are giving money, reparations, if you will, to the descendants of the enslaved that helped build and maintain the school. And now recently, I just heard that California is thinking about giving out reparations as well. And I'm a little bit shocked at that because California is not necessarily known to have slaves. Now, I've heard of when they had the gold rush, people from the South took their slaves over into California and Washington, and I believe Oregon and a few other places. If I'm not mistaken, I think the one guy named Dred Scott Keyes had brought a case to court saying that he went to these free states, shouldn't he be free? And the court said no. But anyway, I'll have to look into a little bit more as far as the California situation, because California really was not known as one of the states that kept slaves. But I know that slaves did go there during the California rush, the gold rush historical event that happened many years ago. Okay, so again, you don't know, granted, I'm not holding my breath for New York. If it happens, it happens. And of course, I will definitely spend the money, and I will tell you exactly what I would do with it in a few. But I just want to reiterate that you never know. One day you might get 40 acres and a mule, or you'll get enough money to buy 40 acres and a mule. And if you don't want the mule, you can at least buy a car with it. But I'm going to address the question as it is and let you guys know, just for fun, what I would personally do with that particular money. All right. Number one, I would get together an urban planner, developer, and investors. An urban planner, unfortunately, I don't know one, but I do know several developers and investors. I'm pretty sure they would definitely assist me with this situation. As far as money is concerned, there's some people say that only $100 was given, but you would have to say to yourself, well, what does $100 back then equal now? I don't feel like doing the math on that. So I'm going to actually start and say, I'm just going to use whatever money I have, plus, of course, the money that the investors have, to build what I would like to build. 40 acres is enough for a city. In order to have a city named a city, though, you have to have 1,000 residents. So I would build at least 500 multi-family properties. I wouldn't have too many low-income properties because President Trump has cut the CDBG grant that he gives out. So because of that, I would only have a limited number of those be designated under HDFC. I would build a co-op or two. If this was going to be done in New York, it would be a Mitchell-Lama co-op or two. Mitchell-Lama, unfortunately, is not in other states, but if there is anything similar to that, I would have that in the other states, and I probably would build 500 of those as well. I would, of course, before building, because that would just be my plan, before building, I would test the soil and make sure there's no radiation, because many of the Indian reservations, that's what they have. I would make sure that there's nothing else going on with the soil. I would also check for mineral rights and profit off of that as well before we even got started. While we are in the planting stages, I would have trees planted around the border of the property and have the mule's manure help in the growth of those trees. If many of you may not be aware of this, but trees, they actually are profitable when it comes to forestry. They also can act as a barrier. They also clean the air. So that's one of the reasons why trees would be what I would plant while the designing process is going on. Because when you come up with the design, as far as how to plan things out, that can take a year or two by itself. So by that time, the trees would be of a good, considerable height. I was also speaking to one lady in forestry. She was mentioning you can make money planting wildflowers and berries. So I would go ahead and just get that done so that I could collect some income during this design planning basis, period. Next, the next thing that I would do, I'm assuming like after the homes are built, etc., I believe you need a water certificate or a way, but basically there needs to be a way in order for the pipes to come into the city and pump water into the city. So I would definitely do that. I would get a water sewage plant. I do know somebody who used to own one, so that would definitely go up to cut down on the smell and take care of the garbage in the area. I would put up cell tower, solar panels, and satellite dishes because I cannot work anywhere without getting some sort of signal so that I can access my internet. And in addition to that, I need electricity. It's a necessity for me. So I would have those in place on the land as well. As far as the cell tower is concerned, you can rent to companies and they'll pay you on a monthly basis just to have a cell tower there. Not sure if any of you are aware of that, but that is another way in which to make money. So, in addition to those necessities that I've mentioned, I would have a grocery store and a farm behind the grocery store, and also on top, I believe in roof farming, so we would have that. I would have a laundromat, banks set up, hair salons, because when it comes to the Black community, hair salons has been the biggest game changer monetarily, wealth-wise for us. In addition, I am not somebody that likes to get on a train or bus, sit there for an hour to get my hair done. I like the fact that where I live right now, I can just pretty much roll out of bed and have somebody do my hair. They're either 1 block away, half a block away. I love that. And I don't want to give that up. I lived in an area once where that was not the case. I refuse to do that again. Okay? Because when it comes to taking care of my head, I can't do it myself. I have to pay somebody. All right. A laundromat would be another, or several laundromats actually, would be another thing that I would build. And I probably would have the laundromats, several of them in, or not several, but all of them in the co-op buildings that I mentioned earlier. I would also have a number of other commercial property available so that if someone wanted to own their own business in a physical space, such as restaurants, they would be able to rent out those spaces in order to serve their customers. So that is pretty much it as far as what I would build. Oh, I forgot. I would definitely have a school. My intention, actually, even right now, I'm working on having an online school, but I do think that it's important, once COVID especially is over, that a physical school is put in place for children and a nursery school is put in place so that parents who, especially those who work in, let's say, hospitals and grocery stores, firemen, they need for people to take care of their children. So I would still have those put in place. I would also build a hospital for the people there that lived in that particular city so that they would not have to go far, that they would not have to go to another town in order to get operated on. And that's pretty much it as far as what I would do or what I would build. So in a sense, everything that I would put up, eventually that money is going to turn around and come back into my pocket. That's my dream. That's what I have in my head. So guys, I would like for you to share, what is it that you would do if you were given 40 acres and a mule? You know, some of you who live in some of these states, you're getting enough money where you can actually buy that for yourself. Let me know in the comments section what you plan on doing. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be here in America, because I've seen some people who said that they're sick of America, they're going to just sell it and move to another country. No answer is wrong. I'm just curious to see what it is that you guys would do. So this is just a fun exercise, but I think it's also a necessary exercise to get you guys to dream. As many of you know, some of you may, I've shared that I am a Christian, and one of the verses says, my people perish for lack of knowledge, but also it mentions that we should have visions. We should be able to see things. It says, as a man thinketh, so is he. Right? So I'd like to just get your wheels in your mind turning and just share below what it is that you would do. All right. Well, that's all I have for you. Thanks, guys, for listening. I hope you share this amongst your friends. Remember, each one, reach one, teach one. Bye for now. Until next time, have a good night.